Wala, what's your pangalan? Lula. Lula? Tinatangin mo.
Heinz Kulicke feels at home here among the dump dwellers of Cebu. He actually lived in this slum for a while. Heinz Kulicke is a Roman Catholic priest, a professor of philosophy, and the head of a missionary order with 6,000 members around the world. But above all, he's a friend to the dump dwellers on this island in the Philippines. When he first came here 25 years ago, people thought he was crazy.
But they also said that about Jesus. You know the story in the Bible where his relatives turn up and everyone thinks Jesus is crazy, unbalanced. Sometimes you have to be crazy. When you're unbalanced, you automatically change your position. You suddenly view things quite differently. When I take the standpoint of the people on the garbage dump, for instance, you could say I'm off balance. But being unbalanced in that sense is an important part of being human. And it's very important for a missionary. Every now and then we have to change our position.
This land was reclaimed from the sea to become the site of a Cebu City garbage dump. And with the trash came the people. They had nowhere else to go. The garbage dump offered them a chance of survival, and it became their home.
There are 4 garbage dumps on the island of Cebu. This is the largest, serving Cebu City. More than 3,000 people live here. Each of the other dumps is home to 1,500.
They rummage through other people's refuse in search of plastic, metal, and paper. At the end of the day, they sell these small treasures to the recycling companies for a few pesos. Heinz Kulicke is a divine word missionary. When his order sent him to the Philippines in 1986, he heard about people living in the dumps. One day he followed a garbage truck. What he saw when it reached its destination shocked him. People sifting through garbage in search of food. Women giving birth to children, and the sick suffering without medical attention. Children living in constant danger of being crushed by bulldozers or other heavy equipment.
40 children died in the first years. I buried 17 in 1 week alone.
Heinz Kulicke wanted to help. Day after day he came and spoke with the dump dwellers, but they remained skeptical. They had been deceived too often in the past. To win their trust, Father Kulicke decided to live among them for a few weeks.
If you come from a European country where everything is very sanitized and regulated, life in a garbage dump is disastrous. The stench seeps into your skin. When I got home those first days, I couldn't even take my clothes into my room. I had to strip down to my underwear and leave the rest at the door. It took weeks for me to get used to the overwhelming smell. Some of my visitors had to throw up.
Each day, the priest joined the scavengers and sifted through the garbage in the scorching heat. He shared their dangers, their hunger, even the disgust they were subjected to day in and day out.
We found all kinds of things in the dump. Surgical waste, amputated arms and legs. We even found dead fetuses, mostly aborted.
There are shacks on the edge of the garbage dump, built of scrap from the trash heaps, a stark contrast to life in a monastery. The dump dwellers made one available to Heinz Kühleke.
There are vermin and enormous rats here, and they invade the shacks at night. It's virtually impossible to protect yourself because the vermin scurry up the poles. The only chance I saw was to hide myself under a mosquito net. But even then, the rats drop through the holes in the roof onto the mosquito net. They're diseased, and when they bite people, most of those people contract rabies. If they aren't treated in time, they die.
Heinz Kühleke began to apply his basic knowledge of medicine. He treated people for dysentery and pneumonia, gangrene and infected wounds. He still treats those who are unable to afford professional care.
I studied medicine for a short while in Germany. There was a time when I wanted to become a doctor, but things turned out differently. I became a priest. But I still remember the basics of medicine, and I've taken several courses over the years so that I can help the people here.
Today he has a small mobile clinic. Back in 1986, he had only a backpack filled with ointments, pills, and bandages. We filmed him back then. Father Kühleke's daily presence at the dump site and his first aid were just the beginning. The priest soon realized that he had to find some way to get the children away from the dangers of the dump, where injuries and burns were frequently suffered.
There were between 600 and 700 children working in the dump. Many of them between the ages of 6 and 12. They were constantly sick, but their families couldn't survive without their help scavenging the heaps. A child earned between 10 and 15 pesos, 20 if they worked fast. That income was lost to them when they started sending most of the children to school. After just a month, 95% of the kids stopped attending. We hadn't yet fully understood how important the children were for their families, how important their contribution was towards supporting the others.
So Father Kühleke stopped looking to remove the children who were capable of working and focused on their younger siblings. He founded daycare centers. After a while, the parents realized that this was their children's only hope of escaping the world of abject poverty.
11 buildings is made of food, cement.
There are hardly any children anymore who work on these trash heaps or in the other dumps.
Pangayo ni teacher ang nigalahi. Asa may walay kapariho diri ang stars or ang sun.
This is one of the daycare centers started by Father Kühleke. While their parents sift through the trash, 210 children are introduced to a new life here. It's a stepping stone to formal schooling.
Nearly 3,000 children have passed through these daycare centers over the years. Many have finished elementary school and are now in secondary school. Others have already finished secondary school and have started a new life working elsewhere.
The University of San Carlos in Cebu City is run by the Divine Word Missionaries. It's one of the Philippines' top 10 universities. At the entrance, a bust of Arnold Janssen, the German priest who founded the order. This is where Heinz Kühleke was appointed professor of philosophy in 1994. He had a very practical approach to his subject. He wanted to analyze the structures that rob humans of their freedom.
I have always thought it was important to look for alternatives and to develop new concepts and deconstruct old ones. Not on one's own, of course, but with other thinking people. We shouldn't be content with the status quo.
Just across from the university are the offices of the organization Justice, Peace, and Integrity of Creation. Those concepts are key to Catholic social teaching. Father Kuluka established the organization in 1999. Its programs include no fewer than 75 daycare centers, and other missionaries from his order are involved in helping run the organization.
I've come to the conclusion that one of the most important principles for our missionaries is that they accept responsibility. I'm less concerned with obedience. What counts is accepting responsibility for the people who desperately need our help. That's where we have to intervene.
These youngsters are a case in point.
They put glue into a plastic bag, blow warm air into it, and then inhale the air.
Sniffing glue, or ragby as it's called, helps still their hunger, but it also causes permanent brain damage. These orphans live on the streets, surrounded by violence and pursued by the police.
These kids have committed serious crimes: murder, rape, armed robbery. They don't have any second chance in society. We want to help them. This one has just got out of prison. That's why he's got this haircut. He committed all sorts of crimes. The police torture the boys by taking bullets out of their revolvers and sticking them between the kids' fingers. Then they squeeze their hands together. This boy has also been beaten.
Cebu's fish market. Kukula knows where to find the street children. This is where they hang out, spending the cash they've stolen on violent computer games. Their own lives are equally full of violence. This boy was one of them, murdered in cold blood. The dealers show no mercy to anyone who tries to cross them, regardless of age. As far as the police are concerned, this boy is just another nameless kid. His death, a statistic.
It's par for the course. Once I came to take the kids for a meal, and while they were eating, someone got shot behind us. The kids simply turned to look and then carried on eating.
Father Kukula comes here virtually every evening. Anyone who gives his name gets something to eat. For many, it's their only meal of the day. The list gives the priest an overview of who is around and who has disappeared. That's how he gets to know them, the 14-year-old girl prostitutes and the boys embarking on a life of crime. Those on his list are the kids with a chance.
We try to foster a relationship with the children. That can take years. Later, we take them in at our center called Samaritan House, where they can wash every day. Once they settle down, they can move into a permanent home, the community house. There they can attend school and eventually learn a trade.
For the moment, all these kids want is a decent meal. But with the missionaries' help, some of them will escape the misery of the streets. On Saturdays, Father Kukula and another priest celebrate Mass in a shack on the edge of the garbage dump. These children are among the lucky ones. They've left the streets and are now attending school or daycare. The Mass is of central importance to Father Kukula.
It's very important for me to confront the situation in the Philippines with the Word of God. I believe that Jesus set out his program very clearly in the Sermon on the Mount. I meditate on it every day and ask myself, how can I become poor in God's presence? reject violence, hunger and thirst for justice, show mercy. Having mercy on the poor also means challenging them. It's not just about showing sympathy. And then there's the question, what can we do to bring peace? It's important to realize that there can be no peace or progress without justice. The difference between me and a social worker is that I'm a Christian, a follower of Jesus Christ. The criteria of the Last Judgment are very clear. I was hungry, I was thirsty, I was homeless, and you took me in. Those are practical things that we can do in everyday life. I was sick and you treated me, you took care of me.
Das sind ganz konkrete Dinge, die ich im Alltag machen kann. Ich war krank, ihr habt mich medizinisch versorgt, ihr habt euch um mich gekümmert.
I have various names here. Some people call me Father, others call me Mananamba, the medicine man. The priest is also a Mananamba, a man who brings healing on another level. In this case, refusing to accept poverty, exploitation and injustice. It means thinking about the situation and trying to change it. These people have to gain more self-confidence and stand up for themselves, unite to achieve something, and in that way experience healing and less suffering.
Father Kakuda has managed to create a community. These individuals no longer feel that they're struggling on their own.
There's cooperation in many areas. The children go to school together, and the people work together in our projects. We try to increase the income they receive from the recycling materials they find in the dump and use the profits for community purposes. Nobody can survive in the dump site without community. The people have learnt that valuable lesson, which I also had to learn, and we encourage them to keep reflecting on that fact. They have formed a community.
Rome, the heart of the Catholic Church, 10,000 kilometers from Cebu. The Divine Word missionaries, represented in 79 countries around the world, also have their headquarters here. Some 60 missionaries live at the Mother House. Some are students, others teach at various universities in Rome. Others staff the international headquarters. Last year, members of the order elected a new superior general, the 11th head of the Divine Word missionaries, since St. Arnold Janssen founded the order in 1885. They chose Heinz Kühlücke.
People know that I've been working with people on the margins of society for many years. Maybe that is one reason why I was elected. Globally, the number of people on the margins of society is increasing rapidly.
As the head of 6,000 missionaries, Heinz Kühlücke has the final say on where they're sent. He's not a man to relish power. He takes a humble approach to his task.
I think the special characteristic of Divine Word missionaries is that they stay close to ordinary people, just like Jesus, to be a friend of the poor.
His room in Rome looks like a student's digs. Father Kühlücke is not interested in ruling an empire from here. So far as possible, he wants to be among his brother missionaries in their struggle for peace and justice.
Indonesia, Papua New Guinea, China, the Philippines. I travel to 25 to 30 countries each year. In the first 2 months of this year, I slept in 25 different beds.
Father Kühlücke returned to Cebu straight after his election as Superior General. He didn't want the people here to feel he would abandon them.
It would be a mistake to think that I must now lose contact with people on the margins of society. They have had such a decisive influence on me. I'm in constant touch with them, and we are pressing ahead with our projects. Because of my current position, I now have many opportunities to organize and coordinate assistance for the people I've been caring for. But I also have an opportunity to apply the experience I gained in Cebu to other projects across the world.
Father Kulika takes us to the slums on the outskirts of Cebu City. The living conditions here may be pitiful, but the residents are terrified of being evicted. City authorities and property owners regularly demolish their shacks, often burning them down.
It's very dangerous when there's a fire at night. Sometimes there are no survivors. Their only escape route is the narrow tunnel. The elderly and disabled don't stand much of a chance. There are often fatalities.
This new housing is for people expelled from the slums or fleeing from the garbage dump. It's Father Kulika's 8th resettlement project. Through his efforts, 10,000 people have received a decent home. His method of fundraising is simple. He invites people interested in his work, such as this group of Australians, to take a look for themselves. That convinces them. Cebu City by night, the district that draws the sex tourists. Heinz Kulika has been working since 5 in the morning. Meetings, projects, visiting the dump dwellers. But the red light district is one of his priorities.
I've been coming here every evening for more than 17 years. We work from about 7 in the evening until 2 or 3 in the morning. That's when the girls are working.
Kulika particularly cares for the underage girls here, lured by false promises and exploited as sex slaves.
Little Jocelyn, for instance, who is 15 years old. She went into a bordello where she was told a client was waiting for her. In fact, it was 5 foreigners. They brutally abused her and even put a plastic bag over her head until she almost suffocated. They enjoyed that. She went home in tears, and the bordello owner wasn't even sorry.
That's why Father Kulika comes here every evening when he's in Cebu City with medicines in his backpack. For the prostitutes, it's often their only access to treatment when they're sick or injured. The priest has helped many to escape their desperate circumstances. Over the years, he's had many helpers. The longest serving is his fellow missionary, Paul. Once, a nun wanted to join him, but her superior opposed the plan. Father Kulika used every argument to try and change her mind.
I said if Jesus were living today, he wouldn't sit in a convent or a parish house and wait for people to come and seek his help. He would go out among the people, and he would help the girls wherever they were in need. Well, that infuriated the sister, and she said, "Leave Jesus out of this. He's got nothing to do with it." That's our problem in the church. We do lots of things that have nothing to do with Jesus. We have to change that. I'm convinced that Jesus, our God, is very concerned about what happens in the red light district, or with street children, and in the garbage dumps. I see a clear message in the Bible. There is only one way, and that is to stay close to the people. Our God does not condone things like this. The injustice was created by humans, and humans have to set it right.
Und unser Gott erlaubt sowas nicht. Das ist massives Unrecht, das von Menschen gemacht wurde, das auch von Menschen wieder verändert werden muss.
Heinz Kulika is convinced that change is possible. that the children in the dump or on the streets do have a future, that there's a way out for prostitutes. His projects have enabled hundreds of girls to escape the slavery of the red light district and regain their dignity after years of suffering abuse. Father Heinz Kudeka's mission is to heal the injured and the abused in Cebu and as head of his order throughout the world.
Over the years, I have learnt that when you encounter people in need, you encounter God.
Für mich ist das meine Spiritualität.